Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Woman in Progress podcast. I'm your host, Coach Lexi. If you don't know, now you know. And I am actually in my car on my way home from the gym, gonna eat breakfast and do another podcast collab after this. And girl, one thing about me, I gotta drop the perfectionism. I gotta drop the feeling that things need to be done a certain way or because this and that. Because honestly, it just stifles my creativity. It stifles the flow state, the natural flow of things. And this is how I operate best. You know what I mean? Sometimes y'all are gonna get really good quality episodes with my podcast mic and, video and all of these things. And sometimes y'all are going to get me pulling up voice memo while I'm driving home and on my walk. And I think that is just really going to be the key for me to actually be consistent. And if you ever see me not being consistent, it's probably because the perfectionism's coming through. So with that being said, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Is where are you letting perfectionism stifle your own creativity, your own manifestations and abundance? And when we talk about this, let's really talk about, you could think about your career, you could think about love, but because I am a holistic health coach, I am going to talk about, I'm a lot of things. I'm not just that, but for those of you who listen to me, you probably know me for that. Let's say with your fitness journey and your health and fitness goals, right? Sometimes when we have a certain outcome that we desire, we're so focused on getting that outcome, whether we're aware of it or not, that sometimes we stifle our own momentum and flow because we feel like, again, whether we're conscious of it or not, that things need to be done a certain way. And while, yes, there are things that need to get done, like for example, if you really want to target your nutrition to lose fat, build muscle, there's a few different ways that you can go about it, but the fastest and most effective way is just to track your macros. To track and make sure that you're getting in protein, carbs, fats, the right amount, a consistent amount. And that is the fastest and most efficient way to see results, obviously tied and coupled with other things. Now, obviously, this is dependent on where you're at. If you're a complete newbie and you've been eating fucking whatever, you could literally start eating some protein and vegetables, start working out and see really good progress. But for the person who's already saw some progress and now they're kind of plateaued, that's obviously not what's going to get you from what got you from level 1 to level 2 isn't what's going to be to get you from level 2 to level 3. But that's a conversation for another day, right? So there's nuance to things. In business, there's going to be things that you just have to do, right? To get a certain result, and you can be in denial about it all you want. There's things in business that I've been in denial about. At the end of the day, years into it, years trying to do things different, easier, shortcut ways, it brings me back to there is no shortcut. There's just the 1 + 1 = 2. And no matter how much you want 1 + 1 to equal 3, it's never going to be 3. It's going to be 2. And there's no shortcut, There's things you can do to make it easier, but there's no shortcuts, right? It's the same thing with your health and fitness goals. So I want to ask you is where is that perfectionism coming in for you? Because at the end of the day, it's what you do majority of the time that counts, not once in a while, right? You could be absolutely perfect and on point with things for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then completely fall off for 3 months. Is that really progress? No, not really, right? And I think the biggest thing with perfectionism is also almost setting the bar too high, too fast, because you're frustrated with your own kind of procrastination and overwhelm. And it's really the cycle of the perfectionist. And if you're anything like me and you're trying to move away from the perfectionist identity, which I'm really trying to move out of, sipping my coffee, there's this perfectionist fucking cycle that we find ourselves in, right? It's set really lofty goals because you're a high achiever, because you want to change your life overnight, basically, because you're frustrated with where you're at and you just really want to like make progress. And so you make these like really lofty goals. You try to set all these little to-do lists and all these ways that you're going to change your life. Maybe you write it in your iPhone notes. This is my morning routine. This is my night routine. And you're always intaking new information. You're always planning and writing and visualizing. But then when it comes down to take action, you feel stifled. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like it's too much, because it is. And I think the hardest thing sometimes for recovering perfectionists is like setting realistic goals and starting small, because it doesn't feel like it's enough. It doesn't feel like it's really gonna get us that big change that we want overnight, that we want. And I think that's the biggest and hardest pill to swallow sometimes as recovering perfectionists, is that there is no shortcut. There is no magic pill. There is no like overnight change that we can get. We actually have to think long term. Fuck. Like, it's making me laugh because it's me. And it's like, you actually have to play the long game. But I think it's like, it's that deep impatience. It's like, want it now. You want it now. You want the results now. You want the fucking, like, you just want it now. You want to stop, like, hello, right? And I think that's why sometimes we get into more manifestation. And I know for me, I have a whole story with like manifestation in my own, like a whole thing. I'll do that for another podcast. But it's like, we're always manifesting, whether we're all like, the life that you live right now, you manifested. You're just unconsciously manifested it. So like the job that you're in, like maybe you manifested it from other people's conditioning. So like checking off the boxes, right? You got the career, you got the partner, you're getting married, you get the house, you get the kids. It's like this fucking checklist that like we're conditioned to go through. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't. But like you manifested this life unconsciously. Now, when you have a spiritual awakening, you become conscious to, oh shit, I have a choice. I actually can like be a content creator. I actually can make a living doing something I love. I actually can attract a partner where I don't have to feel like I have to settle. You know what I mean? Like I actually can build my dream body and be one of those like fit gym girls. You know what I mean? Like that's actually possible for you. It's actually your birthright. But then you got to go through, like, you can't have the light without the dark. You got to fucking do shadow work. You got to rewire limiting beliefs. You got to take action. You got to embody. You got to work through procrastination. Like, there's so much shit, right? And so sometimes we get into manifestation and like this, we go into the spiritual awakening, and manifesting just becomes another way for us to try to fucking control shit. It just becomes another way for us to be in control. And that is the ego. Whereas manifestation is actually about so much surrender. Oh my God. It's so much letting go of how you think things should be in your timing and your way. And it's the deepest initiation, but that's what true manifestation is. It's ask and you shall receive, right? And not what you want, but what you're being and what your vibrational frequency is asking. So you can say, I want this, I want this, I want this, I'm manifesting this. But if your thoughts, your emotions, who you're being, and your actions are like dominantly aligning with what you don't want, and you're focused more on what you don't want versus what you do want, then you're a vibrational match for what you don't want, right? Because ask and it is given, right? This is why when I'm on like discovery calls with women and I ask them their goals, and they're like, well, I don't want to be overweight and I don't want to. I'm like, I asked you what you want, not what you don't want. And what's great is when you know more of what you don't want, you know more of what you do want, but we got to focus on what we do want, because that's what you really desire, right? So my whole point of this is control. And the recovering perfectionist, like if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling stifled, if you're feeling contracted, like you know what to do and like you fucking do so much research, and maybe you have been taking action steps, you have been taking baby steps, but there's almost this part of you that just wants results immediately. And it's that entitlement, because that's what it is. I experience it, you experience it, we all experience it. Nobody's holier than thou. I think that's like really frustrating for me sometimes, is when I talk to people and they're like, yeah, I'm good, like I don't really struggle. Shut the fuck up. We all fucking struggle. Like we really do. Like I do. You know what I mean? And the whole idea is that where do you need to like loosen your grip? And so the three rapid fire tips I'm going to leave you guys with today, because I'm about to go up and make sure I eat before this podcast episode I'm going to do with my friend John Solidare. It's going to be a fucking epic podcast, so stay tuned for that one. Is number one, think long term. Think long term. Your ego is going to like feel like that's not enough and it wants it now. But the time is going to pass anyway. And time flies. Like, that's the thing, is like, it takes time, but time flies. And I think sometimes when we hear it takes time, it's like, oh, fuck, man. Like, you know, is it even worth this effort? Like, is there an easier way? And that's when we start to look for shortcuts. That's when we start to get blinded by social media. Well, this person's doing it this way. They seem like, no, it's a fucking trap, right? Like, what is your long-term desire? Where do you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Like, it's okay if that changes. It doesn't have to be this rigid plan. But how do you want to feel, right? So, like, for me, when I think about my physical health, my fitness, my wellness, when I think about a year from now, I want my glutes to be at least, 2 inches larger. I want to maintain healthy gut. Like, I want to completely have healed my gut bacteria. My skin is clear, and I have a consistent morning and night regimen that, like, I'm really consistent with. And when I say consistent, like, I'm doing that shit like 4 to 5 days a week consistently. I want to feel deeply connected to my faith, my spirituality, and I want to really build a business that's built off of like ease and pleasure and joy, and continuing to attract, because we already have been, but like continuing to attract soulmate clients that are really gonna put in the work and like utilize the resources and ask questions and lean into the support and, invest. And again, we already do. Like, if you're a client listening to this, like, you're that girl. But, we're trying to scale and grow the business and, cap out Coach Crystal's roster and hire another amazing coach and help more women. That's our impact, right? So it's like, okay, if I reverse engineer that, what are the daily habits that I need to do today, right? And that's what I go more into with my podcast with John, that you guys will see up soon, if it's not up already. And it really is thinking long term and then reverse engineering those steps into daily 1%. It's like the book Atomic Habits. It's that 1%, right? It's like we all want like that overnight success energy. We all want that instant gratification. But I feel like this generation, God is really teaching us, and the universe is really teaching us like to earn shit, you know what I mean? And to cultivate deep patience, because at the end of the day, like, that's how we're really going to make it stick. That's how we're really going to like build the habits and rewire our mind. I mean, think of someone who has always struggled with their relationship with food, struggled with their weight, which is pretty much all of us, right? Struggled with body image, and then they do this little diet, this 12-week program, this 8-week program. They see really good results because they got into a steep deficit, whatever, yada, yada. You really think 8 weeks and 12 weeks of like that is really going to change her life? No, it's not. Because how the fuck is 8 weeks going to overcome years of an identity and a way of being? Which is why a lot of people, they do these 8-week, 12-week challenges, and they're great. I truly believe that those challenges are good for people who are already like really consistent and already like very educated and advanced in their journey and just like need a reset. Like, those are good for like me, or Coach Crystal. Like, I just need a little bit of accountability. Like, let's get into it. You know what I mean? And even me, like, I still work with nutrition and fitness coaches long term. Do I need to? Like, I know everything I need to do, but that's my ego. I have a life. Like, I need to be self-accountable. And I still struggle with self-accountability. Like, I think this, like, ego of, like, oh, I want to be self-accountable on my own. It's like, that's great. But it's like, I think humans are really meant to just, like, rely on each other. But anyway, before I get off topic, 1% habits every single day. It's like, if you have a savings goal, like, there might be things along the way that speed you up, that quantum leap you, right? All it takes is one person, one moment to, like, really change your life. But at the end of the day, there's no shortcuts. So setting realistic expectations. I mean, when we do studies and we learn, when I say we, I mean like nutrition coaches, and you go through, you know, different courses and lessons, and you work with mentors and you do research on studies, the number one thing is don't change too much too soon. Like, you don't want to change more than 2 to 3 habits at a time. And a lot of the times, what do we try to do? We're trying to set up this morning routine, this night routine, this gym routine. Like, we're trying to do so much all at once because we want to see all that change. And then we burn out, or we get overwhelmed, or we get frustrated with ourselves because we procrastinated again. But why did you procrastinate? Because you were like feeling like it's too much. And then when we actually try to make those small changes, it doesn't feel like it's enough. So then we add on more because we're like really excited and motivated, and we're like, we're going to like really lock in. You know what I mean? So set those daily small habits. This is what we do with our clients when they work with us and Embody Her, which is our women's online holistic nutrition and training coaching service, where we help women transform their bodies, transform their minds, transform their lifestyles. And how do we do that? Not by doing so much at once, depending on like where the person's at. Like, obviously, if they're more advanced, they can handle it. But, you know, someone who doesn't know what the fuck a macro is, we're not going to start them off tracking their macros. Someone who has experience with it, but maybe they're like, they just never understood it. Okay, well then they can start with protein and calories and start with the course material and getting educated. And then like playing trial and error, right? So it's like levels to this shit. The next thing is cultivating self-trust. Right. And a lot of times when we feel stifled, because we don't really trust ourselves because we've lacked follow through in the past. We're consistent with something for a certain period of time and then we fall off. So it creates this like evidence for our brain that like we don't have follow through. And that is the worst thing for our confidence. It just is the worst thing for our confidence. Now, how do we build that confidence back? By building self-trust. How do you build self-trust? By showing follow-through. How do you maintain follow-through? By actually cultivating routines and habits that you can follow through with. You know what I mean? And having those non-negotiables. And lastly, get support. I mean, throughout my entire journey, I have always worked with aligned coaches and mentors to hold me accountable to my long-term vision, to have a game plan that is really going to support me in reaching that long-term vision for myself. And, you know, there's always going to be a reason why you're not ready, whether it's time, money, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to choice. And when you choose that you are ready to receive, because that's what it's about. It's not about the money. I've worked with women where it wasn't in their budget, but they got resourceful. You know what I mean? And obviously we don't want to take food off the table, but 9 times out of 10, it's really not money. Money is just the smoke screen to like fear of wasting money, to fear of, you know, maybe it's like money anxieties, like you just are scared to see that money go. But your health is an investment, not an expense. And when you get skin in the game, it forces you to show up and raise the standard of your life. And, you know, committing to yourself is not just investing in a coach. It's showing up even when it's hard. It's showing up and leaning into the support to work with your coach to come up with solutions, even when it's easy to just quit, right? So get support, get someone in your corner. You do so much for other people, for your career, for your relationships. Like, who's in your corner? Who's going to be there for you to check in on you and make sure that, hey, like, nutrition is doing really good during the week, but the weekends, like, like, we need to tighten up over here. What can we do to make those changes? How can we come up with solutions together? And let me ask you this. Are you more, like, how much more of a percentage of progress do you feel like you would see having the extra support, accountability, coaching, mentorship, education, perspective in your corner, on your side? Like 40%, 20%, 70%, even if it's just 10%, that's a lot of fucking progress. But you got to lean into it. So that is what I'm going to leave with you guys for today. I'm honestly very proud of myself, and my confidence is higher now because I didn't fucking wait until I had my podcast mic in the specific podcast spot that I always do podcasts. Like, it needs to be on video. Oh my God, bro, like, I'm never going to be consistent if things have to be done a certain way. That's what works for me. So love you guys. I'll see you on the next one. I would love to hear your feedback. Send this with a fellow girlfriend or guy friend that is maybe struggling with perfectionism, all or nothing, and, just kind of feeling stifled or stuck or whatever. And yeah, let's crush the rest of this year. Bye.